Let me ask you something personal. Have you ever studied English for hours and still forgotten everything the next day? Have you ever watched video after video, filled notebooks with vocabulary, only to freeze when it's time to speak? If that's you, it's not because you're lazy, and it's not because your brain is broken. It's because the system you were taught was never made for you. The truth is, most English learners are using outdated methods that actually block memory instead of building it. Yes, you've been working hard, but your effort is being wasted inside a broken system, a system that teaches you to memorize, but not to connect, to study, but not to remember. But what if I told you there's another way? A way that trains your brain like native children learn, through rhythm, emotion, simplicity, and repetition. A method so natural it doesn't even feel like study, and it doesn't require expensive courses, native friends, or moving to another country. In this video, you'll discover a complete English learning system that finally works with your brain, not against it. And as you listen, you won't just learn better English, you'll begin to think differently, you'll begin to remember deeper, you'll begin to transform from a frustrated learner into someone who speaks with confidence, memory, and flow. But stay with me until the end, because the most powerful realization only comes in the final moments. Let's begin. He sat in the back of the classroom, quietly staring at the whiteboard, pretending to listen. But inside, he was drowning. For years, people told him he had a bad memory, slow brain, not smart enough, always forgetting things. And he believed them. He believed something was wrong with his brain. But one evening, something shifted. He realized it wasn't his brain that was broken. It was the way he was trying to learn. You see, he had been using the same method since school. Cram, repeat, forget. Cram, repeat, forget. Again and again. He would study for hours, but the information vanished the next day like a dream slipping away after waking up. His notebook was full, but his mind was empty. The problem wasn't laziness, it was chaos. No system, no structure, no emotional connection. That night, he whispered to himself, "My brain is capable. I need a system." He began testing something small, just 2 minutes of focused, phone-free English reading every morning. No distractions, no background music, just attention. At first, it felt silly, too small to matter, but within a week, he started noticing something. He remembered more. Not everything, but more. It was like his mind finally had space to breathe. His thoughts were no longer leaking in 10 different directions. One day, while rereading a short English story, he noticed something magical. Phrases he had forgotten before were now familiar. They stuck, not because he studied longer, but because he studied smarter. That's when it hit him. Memory loves repetition, not boring repetition, but intelligent, gentle review. So he created a tiny habit: review yesterday's English for just 2 minutes before learning anything new. Soon, learning felt lighter. It no longer drained his energy. He stopped trying to memorize 50 things and started focusing on 3 new words each day. Only 3, but he played with them, used them, wrote short sentences, and slowly, English became part of him, not something he was trying to force into his brain, but something his brain welcomed like a guest it recognized. His biggest mistake before? Thinking he needed more hours. But now he knew. It wasn't more hours, it was less friction, simple repetition, emotional connection, focused attention. The learning became deep, not wide, solid, not scattered. The more he simplified, the more his brain relaxed, and the more it relaxed, the more it retained. Before, he would highlight entire pages, thinking that was learning. Now, he chose one sentence and explained it in his own English. That was his real practice. It trained his brain to process, not just to collect. Learning was no longer about how much he studied. It was about how deeply he engaged with what he already had. Less input, more interaction. That was the real transformation. He stopped blaming his brain. He stopped thinking he was slow. And for the first time in years, he felt smart. Not because someone told him so, but because he could feel it. He could remember, express, connect. And every day when he read out loud, even just for 3 minutes, he wasn't just training memory, he was training identity. A new learner was being born. And yet, even as his confidence grew, he saw something else in the world around him, a hidden trap most learners still fall into, a trap that slows everything down and steals their fluency without them even noticing. If you want shallow memories, just keep highlighting every word in your book. Make everything important, and nothing will actually stay. That's the secret. Your brain doesn't remember yellow lines. It remembers connection. So if you want to forget fast, keep reading without processing. But if you want to truly remember, try this instead. Take one sentence you like and explain it in your own words. Not perfect English, your English. That's when your brain starts to own the idea. Want to burn out quickly? Great, just keep studying material that bores you to death. Read difficult texts with zero emotional connection. Force yourself to memorize grammar rules without using them. That's a perfect recipe for exhaustion. You'll feel like you're working hard, but going nowhere. The brain doesn't keep what it doesn't care about. So instead of punishing yourself, choose one graded story that makes you feel something. Read it not like a student, but like a human being. Still want confusion? Focus only on individual words. Isolate them. Memorize apple, go, fast, one by one. The result? You'll recognize words, but never know how to use them. That's because real English lives in phrases, not words. Instead of fast, learn as fast as I can. Instead of go, try I need to go now. The moment you start learning language in chunks, fluency stops feeling so far away. If your goal is zero fluency, then here's a classic method. Learn silently. Never activate your voice. Just read and listen, passively. That way, when it's time to speak, your brain will freeze, your tongue won't move, your confidence will crash. But if you want a different path, take one paragraph from today's reading and speak it out loud. Not quietly, out loud, with feeling, like it's your story. Some people still believe more vocabulary darks more fluency, but that's like saying more food, more fitness. It doesn't work that way. What matters is not how many words you know, but how well you can use the ones you already have. So instead of chasing thousands of new terms, pick 5 phrases you already understand and play with them today. Speak them, write them, teach them, make them part of your world. If you're looking for slow progress, keep ignoring your emotions when learning. Read like a machine, memorize without feeling. But here's a better way. Every time you learn a new phrase, ask yourself, how does this make me feel? Where would I use this in real life? For example, if you learn the phrase, I can't do this anymore, ask, when have I felt this? This tiny shift makes the phrase stick, not just in your mind, but in your identity. Still feeling stuck? Here's one last trick that guarantees slow learning. Change your method every 3 days. Try apps on Monday, podcasts on Tuesday, a grammar book on Wednesday, and forget everything by Sunday. That chaos, it kills momentum. If you want progress, do the opposite. Choose one simple method and repeat it for a few weeks. Mastery doesn't come from variety. It comes from consistency. And yet, even when learners start to realize these things, they often ask the wrong question. They ask, how can I study more? But someone once showed us a better question. How can I study less and remember more? They called him the guy with good intentions, the one who always started strong. New notebooks, new apps, motivation. But after a few days, silence. He forgot what he learned. Again. It wasn't because he was lazy, he was actually trying. Every day he wrote new words, watched new videos, took new notes. But when he tried to speak, nothing came out. Not because he didn't study, but because he studied without a system. For years, his phone was full of vocabulary lists. Long ones, dozens of words per day, hundreds per week, words like resilience, adequate, meticulous, impressive, right? But when someone asked a simple question, "Hey, what did you do today?" He froze. His brain couldn't find the words. They were lost in a pile of disconnected information. That was his breaking point. He whispered, "This isn't learning, it's just collecting." Then one night he discovered something online, a small channel, a simple concept, graded readers, short stories written for English learners, with natural phrases, real emotions, and built-in repetition. He picked one story, just one, and he read the same chapter every day for 5 days. At first it felt boring, but then something magical happened. The sentences began to feel familiar. The rhythm felt easier. His brain stopped struggling. It started predicting. By day 10, he wasn't just reading anymore. He was feeling the story. The main character's voice echoed in his mind. The emotions were real, and slowly, the phrases became part of his natural speech. Instead of memorizing, "I'm feeling down," he said it when he was tired. Instead of repeating, "I have no idea," he used it in a conversation with a friend. This wasn't just memory anymore. It was identity. Here's what changed everything. He stopped learning more and started reviewing one old chapter each day. He didn't rush to finish the book. He let the story sink in, the same way you watch a favorite movie more than once, because every time you notice something new. He trusted the process, and every review added a deeper layer of memory. It was like going from black and white to full color. By the 3rd week, something unbelievable happened. A stranger asked him for directions, in English, and without overthinking, he answered. Smooth, confident, not perfect, but natural. He didn't plan the sentences, they just came, because the words weren't floating anymore. They were his. That day he smiled in the mirror and said, "I'm not studying English, I'm living it." He kept the habit simple, one short reading, one short review, one small practice. And slowly, the way he spoke changed, not with big words, but with rhythm, with clarity, with connection. He could finally say things like, "It's been a long day," or "That's not what I meant," without translating. These were phrases he met in his reader, but now they were alive inside him. His memory was no longer leaking, it was compounding. Like interest in a bank account, every day of repetition built more confidence, more fluency, more flow. And when someone asked, "What's your secret?" he didn't say, "I studied harder." He said, "I studied deeper." That was his turning point. And the most surprising thing, other people noticed his growth and before he did. But what made this transformation possible? What actually changed the way his brain held on to language? That answer, it turns out, wasn't just about stories. It was about something far more powerful, hidden deep inside human psychology. There's a reason you remember a heartbreak from 10 years ago, but forget a phone number from yesterday. Emotion. Your brain is not a machine. It's an emotional filter. It keeps what you feel, not what you force. So when you learn English with zero feeling, no connection, no story, no spark, your brain throws it out. But when you attach a feeling to a phrase like, "I miss you," suddenly it stays. In psychology, this is called emotional encoding. Think about it. Do you remember the exact words someone said when they hurt you? Probably yes. Do you remember all the facts from last night's English lesson? Probably not. Because facts need repetition, but emotions give you instant memory. That's why learning phrases like, "I can't do this anymore," or "I'm so proud of you," work better when you imagine your own story inside them. Next, let's talk about cognitive load, the mental pressure your brain feels when you process too much at once. Most English learners make a painful mistake. They choose material that's way above their level. Complex grammar, long speeches, native podcasts with zero context. Result? Confusion, frustration, quitting. But when you choose content just below your level, simple, clear, slightly easy, your brain relaxes. And that's when real learning begins. Simplicity is not weakness, it's strategy. Fluent people don't use complicated words all the time. They use clear phrases, repeated in natural conversation. Are you kidding me? Let's take a break. I'm not sure about that. These aren't textbook sentences. They're tools of fluency. Choose 5 of them. Practice out loud today. Make them your own. That's how you reduce load and increase speed. Now here's the brain's next superpower: retrieval strengthening. You don't learn by rereading, you learn by recalling. Most learners read the same page 10 times, but that's not memory. That's repetition without challenge. Instead, try this. After reading, close the book. Say in your own words what the paragraph was about, in English, even if it's broken. That tiny act of struggling to remember is what builds real memory. It's like a gym for your brain. Reading is the input, but recalling is the muscle. That's why after 1 week of learning new words, you should try recalling them before checking your notes. Can't remember them all? Perfect. That gap, that discomfort, is where memory is built. You're not failing, you're training. Let's add one more layer: deep comprehension. This is where everything changes. When you understand something in English, not just translate it, but truly grasp it, your brain celebrates. It says, aha, this is mine now. That's why we say, don't memorize, process. Take a short paragraph, explain it in your own words. Not fancy, not perfect, just honest. That's how your brain moves from I read it to I own it. When emotion, simplicity and repetition come together, the brain enters a state of flow. Learning stops feeling like effort. It becomes rhythm. And when that rhythm becomes part of your day, fluency becomes inevitable. But even with this powerful trio, there's one final piece most people miss. And it's not about the brain, it's about you. Did you enjoy the content and it made a difference for you? Click on Super Thanks and support our work. Somewhere along the way, you were taught to study like a child. Flashcards, repetition, pressure. But you're not a child anymore. You're a complex human being with history, habits, responsibilities, wounds, and dreams. And here's the truth. No one told you. If your learning method doesn't match your psychology, it will never stick. Learning is not just about the brain. It's about identity, about learning like the person you are today. That's where most learners break. They copy someone else's strategy without asking, does this work for me? And when it doesn't, they blame themselves. I'm lazy. I have no talent. No, the problem isn't you. The problem is friction, the invisible tension between who you are and how you're trying to learn. That friction kills consistency. So instead of forcing yourself to read complex articles, ask, what is the easiest English activity I enjoy right now? That's where flow begins. Imagine someone who loves stories but keeps forcing themselves to memorize grammar rules. Of course they quit. The soul was never in it. Or someone who's a visual learner, trying to learn only through audio. That's not discipline. That's self-sabotage. The fastest learners are not the most motivated. They're the ones who remove friction, who build their method around their truth, not someone else's success. And then something beautiful happens. Self-compassion. You stop punishing yourself. You stop saying, why am I not fluent yet? And you start saying, I'm doing something courageous. I'm rebuilding my brain in a new language. That's no small thing. That's heroic. So start each study session with a kind sentence. I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm allowed to go slow. That shift changes everything. Because when you learn with compassion, your brain opens. It stops fighting. It begins to trust you again. And when that happens, curiosity returns. You stop studying because you should and start learning because you want to. That's the most powerful energy of all, curiosity. It pulls you in, it fuels your mind, it creates momentum. And momentum makes fluency feel inevitable. That's why we say, choose a story that moves you, not because it's advanced, not because it's native, but because it makes you care. English is not a performance, it's a relationship. If you study what excites you, your brain will stay longer. That's not childish, that's neuroscience. And here's a gentle truth. You don't have to do it like everyone else. You're allowed to build your own English system, one that includes your habits, your emotions, your voice, your rhythm. This is not school. This is self-reinvention. So stop asking, am I studying enough? Start asking, Am I studying as me? Because once you build a method around your identity, once English fits who you are, fluency doesn't feel like a mountain. It feels like a mirror. But to build that mirror, you must also understand how the brain truly acquires language, not through stress, but through something far more powerful, something you used when you were just a child. Your brain wasn't designed to memorize grammar rules. It was designed to absorb patterns. That's how children learn their first language. No textbooks, no drills, just exposure, rhythm, repetition, emotion. And guess what? Your brain still works the same way. That's why graded readers are so powerful. They speak the language your brain understands. Simple input, natural structure, real stories. Think of it like this. Every time you read a graded story, your brain is building pattern memory. You see the same sentence again and again. I don't know. Are you serious? Let's go. These aren't random lines. They're neural blueprints. Your brain starts to recognize the rhythm, the structure, the flow. And then, without realizing, you start predicting what comes next. That's fluency, not translation, but anticipation. Now add the multimodal effect. This is when you read, listen, and speak at the same time. It's not about multitasking. It's about full immersion. When you shadow the audio of a graded reader, your ears train your mouth. Your mouth trains your memory. Your memory starts building fluency with speed and emotion. It's like learning through music. One beat, one phrase, one emotion at a time. Let's say you're reading a story about someone who's lost in a foreign city. You're not just reading English, you're feeling it. You imagine the cold street, the flashing lights, the voice asking, "Do you need help?" That's semantic expansion. Your brain connecting words to images, emotions, context. Help is no longer just a word. It becomes a moment, and moments stay. This is what school never taught you. Your brain remembers experience, not data. So when you read stories where someone is scared, confused, excited, or in love, your memory doesn't just save the vocabulary, it saves the feeling. And feelings are sticky. That's why learners who use graded readers often remember more in 1 week than others do in months. And slowly, something strange and beautiful happens. Your brain starts catching fluency rhythm, the natural ups and downs of English, the pauses, the linking sounds, the clusters. You're not just saying words, you're speaking in waves. It's no longer robotic, it's music. You shadow a sentence like, "I didn't mean to do that," and soon it rolls off your tongue like you've said it 1,000 times. Here's a simple ritual to activate this power. Choose 1 minute of audio from a graded reader. Play it, listen once, then shadow it. Line by line, match the tone, match the speed, repeat it 5 times. This is not about perfection. It's about rewiring. Every repetition is a thread, and thread by thread you're building a fluent voice. Because your brain doesn't want complexity, it wants consistency. And if you give it the right input, simple, emotional, repetitive, it will give you something back. Not just memory, not just comprehension, but ownership. The language becomes yours, and soon the world will hear it in your voice. But what's even more surprising, when this new rhythm becomes part of your daily life, the people around you begin to notice, even before you do. At first, it seems like nothing's happening. You're just reading a story, repeating a few phrases, reviewing one old chapter. It feels too small to matter. But then, something subtle shifts. You speak a sentence aloud, and your voice doesn't hesitate. Your tone feels smoother. Your pauses are natural. And someone listening, maybe a friend, a stranger, a co-worker, raises an eyebrow and says, "Hey, your English sounds better." You smile, surprised, because you hadn't even noticed. That's what happens when a system finally starts to work. You stop sounding like a student. You start sounding like someone who lives with the language. No overthinking, no translating, just flow. And people feel it, in your rhythm, in your presence. It's not about big words. It's about clarity. That's the moment when English moves from your brain into your voice. You're in the cafe. Someone asks, "What do you do?" And you respond without fear, "I work with digital marketing. I really enjoy it." You didn't rehearse it. You didn't freeze. It just came out. Fast recall. Automatic structure. Why? Because you've been reading, listening, shadowing every day. Your brain has been doing silent work. Repetition was planting seeds. Now they're blooming. The biggest change. You stop chasing vocabulary lists. You start using yesterday's phrases in today's conversations. You remember the line from the story, "I've had enough." And now, when someone annoys you, you say it naturally. You're not copying anymore, you're owning. That's fluency. It's not about how many words you know, it's about how easily they come when you need them. And then comes the shift in confidence. You don't panic when someone speaks fast. You listen, pause, and respond with clarity. You don't try to sound perfect, you try to sound present. And people respond. They listen more. They interrupt less. Because something in your voice says, "I'm not faking this. I live here now. Let's go deeper." Fluency becomes a part of your identity. You start thinking in English while walking. You write messages without switching to your native language. You catch yourself dreaming in English. Not all the time, but enough to feel like something big is happening. And it is. Your brain is becoming bilingual, not perfectly, but naturally. That's when motivation explodes. Not because of a YouTube video or some fake inspiration, but because you feel it in your life, at the supermarket, at the job interview, in the mirror. Every day, small moments whisper, "You're changing." And nothing motivates more than visible growth, especially when it surprises even you. That's why you start tracking your micro-wins. Today I spoke without translating. Today I understood that podcast intro. Today I answered a message in English without help. These may look small, but they're the real fuel. Fluency is not built in one dramatic leap. It's built in hundreds of tiny victories, one brave sentence at a time. And as you grow, there's a new question waiting for you, a question deeper than "How do I learn English?" A question that asks something more powerful. Who am I becoming as I learn? Why did I learn so slowly before? He asked himself one night, staring at his journal. The answer came quietly. Because your method fought your brain. You were trying to push information into a system that wasn't ready. No structure, no repetition, no emotional link. You were learning like a machine, but you are not a machine. You are a human being, and your brain learns best through clarity, safety, and connection. So now, before every study session, he repeats this softly. My brain learns through clarity. Then came the second question. What actually makes learning fast? And the answer surprised him. It wasn't studying all day. It was doing a little, every day, with full attention. It was consistency. It was comprehension. It was emotional connection. Fluency wasn't the result of working harder. It was the result of working smarter and kinder. He stopped pressuring himself. He started creating a simple 10-minute daily English ritual. That small rhythm changed everything. Each day, the ritual became a mirror. He sat down, read one page, shadowed 1 minute, spoke one paragraph out loud. And every day, he felt more fluent, not just in words, but in presence. Because English was no longer something he chased. It was something he lived. Every evening, he would whisper a phrase to himself, "I remember what matters." That sentence anchored him. It reminded him that fluency wasn't about memorizing, it was about feeling. And then the real question arrived. A question so deep, it silenced the noise. Who am I becoming? He looked back at the scared version of himself, the one who hid during English conversations, who doubted every sentence, who felt small in meetings, who watched subtitles with shame. That version didn't disappear. It evolved into someone more confident, someone more stable, someone who could help others now. Because fluency isn't just about speaking, it's about healing. Now, learning feels sacred, no longer a race, no longer a pressure, just a quiet agreement between him and his future. I will keep showing up, even when it's hard, even when I doubt, even when progress is invisible. And every day he ends with a simple ritual. He records a 30-second English summary of what he learned or felt. No pressure to be perfect, just presence, just truth. Those 30 seconds are powerful. They aren't practice, they are proof. Proof that something is changing, that he's not wasting his time, that he is no longer studying English. He is owning it, word by word, layer by layer, soul by soul. The language is no longer separate from him. It is becoming him. And when others ask, "How did you become so fluent?" he doesn't say grammar or apps or motivation. He smiles and says, "I stopped fighting my brain. I started listening to it. I built a method that matched my mind, and I never looked back." Because now, English is no longer a goal, it is his voice. Now pause for a second and really ask yourself, are you learning English just to pass a test? Or are you learning it to open a door to a better job, a freer life, a stronger version of yourself? Because after everything you've just heard, you now know something most people never learn. Fluency isn't built by pressure. It's built by rhythm, by identity, by understanding how your brain truly remembers. So here's the real question. Will you keep forcing old methods that fight your brain? Or will you finally choose a system that respects how you naturally grow? You already felt it in this video. That shift inside you. That voice that said, "This is different. This feels right." Don't ignore it. This is not just about learning English. This is about rebuilding your focus, your confidence, your memory, and maybe even your self-worth. Because when you stop fighting your brain and start flowing with it, you don't just become fluent, you become free. So tell me in the comments, which part of today's story opened something in you? Which method will you try first? And why? Let's grow together. This channel is your home now, not just for English, but for your inner transformation. Subscribe to keep learning, like the video if it touched you. Comment with your thoughts, I read every word. And turn on the bell to never miss a journey like this again. Because your voice matters, your growth matters, and your English is only the beginning.